Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel, the Strongest Psychic System. Chapter 41. Early the next morning, after Charles, Eric, and Moira rushed back from the Soviet Union and sent White Queen to the CIA secret prison, they hurriedly returned to the CIA Secret Research and Development Department. The three have received news about the attack on the secret R&D department by Xiao. When the car stopped, Charles, Eric, and Moira got out of the car. There was chaos all around, people coming and going, some cleaning the corpses, and some sorting out scrapped equipment and facilities. Charles stepped forward and looked at the R&D department. Darwin, Hank, Sean, Alex sat and chatted with a handsome man from the east, and immediately walked in front of him. "We have arranged it and will take you home later," Charles said to Alex and the others, then stretched out his hand to the handsome Eastern man, and said gratefully, "Hello, my name is Charles Xavier, thank you for saving these children." At the moment, Professor X is not too smart, and has thick flowing hair. He is more than 20 years old and looks a bit sophisticated. Wearing a gray suit, he has a mature and stable image. "You're welcome, my name is Su Moching, and I also came to deal with Sebastian Xiao, but unfortunately, let him run away." Su Moching shook hands with Charles, and said with regret, "The Black Emperor Xiao's ability is indeed a bit troublesome." Su Moching is about to slowly grind his opponent to death, but at the last moment, the Red Devil uses the teleporting ability to take away the Rapids, Salvador and Black Emperor Xiao. Among them, part of the reason is because Su Moching deliberately released water. Xiao still has some usefulness, let it go first, it will also help Su Moching's follow-up plan. Su Moching, I seem to have heard this name there. After Charles heard Su Moching's name, he thought about it, and then looked at Su Moching in shock. "Are you from Longtang Technology Group?" "Why, doesn't it look like?" Su Moching smiled. In recent years, Su Moching has remained simple, never participated in any press conferences, and rarely appeared in front of others. Except for a few big-time figures, not many people in the group under his name knew him. Most outsiders have heard of Su Moching's name. They only know that he is rich and has countless business groups, but they don't know much about him. Charles grew up, he heard that it was not about Su Moching. He looked at Su Moching, who seemed to be younger than him. He was puzzled at the moment. "No, it's just that you look younger than I thought." While talking, Charles used the ability of telepathy to understand the details of Su Moching, but was blocked by a mental barrier. Su Moching said, "Everyone has privacy, Charles. It is immoral to spy on others' thoughts. Sorry, this is an old problem, I'm working on it recently." Charles smiled apologetically. Telepathy's ability can detect other people's thoughts. For Charles, as long as he wants to, most people don't have any secrets in front of him. At the moment, Charles was still young, and his restraint was not as strong as in the later period. With some lifting and release of Su Moching, he used telepathy. Eric looked at Su Moching with a deep meaning, and stretched out his hand. "Eric Lenscher, how did you defeat Xiao, can you tell me more about it?" Eric and Sebastian Xiao fought, knowing that the other party's ability is very powerful, and he is not afraid of attacking. The young man in front of him, who seems to be in his 20s, can actually beat Xiao away. He doubted it, and at the same time, some expectations. If you know Sebastian Xiao's weakness, it will be much easier to kill the opponent next time you meet. "Definitely, but are you going to talk about it here?" Su Moching and Eric shook hands. Looking at the young Magneto at the same time, Eric looked a few years older than Professor X. Charles, slender and sturdy, with unruly eyes and a melancholy evil temperament. At this moment, Alex got up and said to Charles, "I don't want to go to jail. That guy almost killed Darwin." "Then you should go back." Charles is really worried about the safety of a few young mutant compatriots, and doesn't want them to take risks anymore. Although he could not perceive Su Moching's thoughts, through telepathy he still saw the scene of Su Moching fighting Sebastian Xiao from Darwin's memory and knew the situation at the time. He didn't want the same thing to happen again. Eric is a radical person and objected, "Where can they go? If Xiao can't be stopped, they won't be safe anywhere." Charles heard the words and smiled apologetically at Su Moching, then took Eric to the side. "They are still children. It used to be, they have grown up, not a few years younger than you and me. Xiao has his army, and we must have our own," Eric said seriously. Eric has been tortured and oppressed since he was a child. He is more aware of the darkness of this world than Charles, and at the same time hates Xiao, who killed his mother. Whether it is his current position or personal reasons, he will not let him go. Charles thought for a while, looked at Darwin, Hank and others, then looked at Su Moching and said, "I have a place, I believe you will be satisfied." Soviet Union. The Black Emperor Xiao, who suffered a big loss for the first time, was very atmosphere. If it were not for lack of energy, he would not be easily defeated by the opponent. However, Black Emperor Xiao will not give up easily. It took so much effort before to have today's situation. Definitely will not stop here because of a setback. Under the intimidation and lure of the Black Emperor Xiao, several high-level officials in the United States and the Soviet Union have agreed to his plan to send warships to the Cuban waters to confront each other, making the atmosphere between the two countries extremely tense. Newspapers across the country are reporting on the Cuban incident, which has attracted the attention of the whole world for a while. The other side. Su Moching rode Harley and followed Charles to a farm outside New York. Charles is the home of the rich. The Xavier farm occupies an area of 80 acres. The housekeeper is responsible for taking care of it. There are dozens of servants. In the middle of the farm, there is a huge amounts of castle. Although not as good as Su Moching's Longtangzhuang yard, he had never seen Darwin in the world, and Alex and others were stunned. It means that poverty restricts their imagination. It turns out that the real estate of rich people is calculated on the basis of acres. Sean looked at the several stories of the castle in front of him, and said unbelievably, "This is really your home?" "No, it's our home." Charles smiled gently, completely treating the other mutants as family members. Eric joked, "I really don't know, how did you grow up in such a hard environment?" "It's okay, Mr. Su's house must be more magnificent than mine. Let's go and take a look." Charles smiled and invited everyone into the castle. Su Moching followed into the castle with a smile. "It's okay, you can come to my guest when you have time." Su Moching still has some good feelings about Charles, who is almost a sage. What's more, he knows that there will be many beautiful students here in the future, so Charles is a friend, he has made it. Since ancient times, the true feelings can't be retained, only routines are popular. Xavier Village. Su Moching, who had rescued Darwin and others, temporarily joined the mutant group. In order to deal with the mutant of Sebastian Shaw, Charles developed specific training for Hank, Alex, Darwin, Sean and others. Charlton is not a professional, but he has the most powerful brain, he learns everything very fast, and his understanding of ability is also second to none, so he can be considered as a good one. Su Moching and Eric and others explained the ability characteristics of Sebastian Shaw and the solutions. At the same time, some things are concealed, and there must be no harm or defensiveness. There is no harm in leaving everything alone. Charles's mental power was stronger than Su Moching, but he couldn't break through Su Moching's mental barrier without using his full strength, and he couldn't detect Su Moching's thoughts. This made Charles faintly disturbed. Since his awakening mutant gene, he should not be able to read other people's thoughts to avoid harm. It can be said that ordinary people have no secrets at all in front of him. Nowadays, among a group of transparent people, there is suddenly one more person who can't see through and has a strong strength. How can it be possible if you say you don't worry? But Su Moching, like a okay person, fought together with a group of young mutants. This fight was a real fight. To be correct, it was Su Moching who beat the children in the name of training and taught them more practical approaches. Body fighting skills. I have to say that mutant is indeed unique and has a great innate advantage over humans. In just a short time of training, Darwin and others have made great progress. Among these young mutants, Alex has the strongest attack power. His body can absorb solar energy to produce mutations and emit laser beams. Originally, the potential is also high, but he can't handle his own energy freely, and it is easy to accidentally hurt people. Sean's super ability is Sonic Wave, nicknamed Sirens. It has sharp ultrasonic waves that can shatter glass and can be used as a radar. Hank's ability has excellent physical abilities and a pair of big feet that resemble palms. His brain is very clever and he invented a lot of things during the period. As for the black guy Darwin, his ability is adaptation. This ability has a high potential. If it is fully developed, it will be very powerful. In the original plot, die too early, otherwise it is very likely to evolve into a fifth-order mutant. Darwin is a person who knows his gratitude. Since being rescued by Su Moching, he has always been grateful and worked hard during training, but he is a person worth training. Su Moching is not a stingy person, using the resources at hand, providing all kinds of equipment, and even creating a batch of suitable equipment for them. For example, Sea Monster Sean obtained a pair of special material sliding clothes. Ravager Alex obtained an energy conversion concentrator developed by Beast. Hank, provided by Su Moching. Darwin got 2 superalloy wrist knives. At the same time, a bulletproof battle suit is handed. On this day, with the help of Charles, Eric's ability went a step further. Watching Eric use the ability to turn the huge amounts of signal receiving tower, Su Moching stepped forward. Eric, good job, let's try custom-made shoes and gloves for you. There is metal in it. Eric's ability is controlling magnetic field. He is very sensitive to metal. Seeing the shoes and gloves that Su Moching took out, he immediately knew that there was metal inside. Su Moching nodded. That's right, adding a layer of superalloy, you wear it, plus your originally ability, you can make you pretend to take you to fly. Thanks. Eric took the bag a little moved. Since his parents died, few people have cared about him. Now in Xavier Village, with a group of mutant compatriots, he has found a sense of home again. Su Moching smiled heartily. You're welcome, it's all yours. Although Magneto is an extremely short-lived racist, he was not originally a bad person. As said in Infernal Affairs, he also wanted to be a good person, but the world did not give him a chance. What's more, Magneto will have several beautiful daughters in the future. Fortunately, Eric doesn't know what Su Moching is in. Otherwise, it is not a question of not being moved. If Su Moching doesn't take the knife and bucket, it will be regarded as Eric's mentality. At this moment, Moira opened the window, poked his head out, and shouted to Su Moching and the others, "Hey, come in and have a look. The president is about to give a speech. Let's go in and take a look." Charles patted Eric and Su Moching on the shoulders, and the three walked into the hall together. Darwin and Alex came one after another. The crowd gathered together and quietly looked at the old-fashioned black and white TV. Our country's position is that any transport of nuclear missiles that crosses the Cuban defense line will be regarded as a Soviet strike against the United States. In this regard, the United States will definitely take a full counterattack. Eric turned off the TV series and said affirmatively, "Where will we find Xiao?" "How do you know?" Sean asked suspiciously. Su Moching, who was on the sofa, tilted Erlang's legs and explained, "Xiao wants to start a nuclear war between the two superpowers and he will definitely help the Flames." Charles nodded. "Everyone prepare, we will leave early tomorrow morning." After the others left, only Charles, Eric and Su Moching remained in the hall. Charles sighed. "Cuba, the Soviet Union, the United States, there is no difference. Xiao is declaring war on the world, declaring war on us, he must be stopped." "I'm not going to stop Xiao," Eric said. Su Moching took a sip of the coffee next to him and nodded slightly. "Agree, I think it's better to kill him directly. Charles has a very good personality. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is the virgin. Even if he knows that Xiaoguan is full, he still doesn't want to kill him. Violence is not the best way to solve the problem. It's enough to solve Xiao." Su Moching and Eric glanced at each other, smiled tacitly, and then shrugged. "This problem will stop here. If Xiao succeeds in provoking the Third World War tomorrow, no matter how much we discuss here, it will be in vain. Everyone, go to bed early." After speaking, Su Moching returned to the room. Charles and Eric discussed the future of mutant again. Charles believes that the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. We should live in harmony with humans and guard the hard-won peace. Eric believes that Charles's ideas are too naive and humans cannot be trusted. Mutant should fight for his own benefit. In the end, the two broke up unhappy. The next day, the X-Men wore black combat uniforms, equipped with communicators, daggers, and stun guns. Originally they planned to be equipped with pistols, but Charles insisted not to kill, so they changed them and they boarded the supersonic aircraft developed by Hank and headed towards Cuba. The sea advances. When Su Moching definitely rushed over the Cuban waters, a freighter named Aral Sea was heading towards the embargo line established by the United States military. In the waters on both sides of the Aral Sea, the United States and the Soviet fleet are facing each other. The situation is critical. On the main ship of the United States fleet, Commander Paul Johnson looked at the pattern displayed on the radar and asked his subordinates, "How is the cargo ship?" "Against the direction, at a position of 12 nautical miles, it is estimated that we will reach the embargo line in 3 minutes, sir," a soldier replied. Paul Johnson sighed. "If they cross the line, then ask for their blessings and raise a combat alert. All personnel are in a state of preparation, and are on standby to prepare. Combat alert, combat alert." With the passing of Paul Johnson's order, the warship sounded the battle alarm. As long as the Soviet freighter crosses the embargo line, it means that the nuclear war will officially begin. As the cargo ship continued to advance, the warships of both Misu and Misu entered the war mode, turning their guns and aiming at the opposing warship. At this moment, a new order came from the Soviet Union, and the Kremlin changed its original plan to make the Aral cargo ship turn around and return. The commander of the Soviet warship breathed a sigh of relief. He experienced World War II and knew the cruelty of war, not to mention nuclear war. Once war really starts, it is not impossible for all mankind to become extinct. It is a pity that when they used the communication equipment to convey the order, no one on board the Aral Sea responded, and there was no sign of turning around. Because the people on the freighter have been killed by the Red Devil. Just as the Aral Sea was about to reach the embargo line, Hank arrived in a supersonic plane, looked at the opposing warships through the window, and said angrily, "It looks like a mess below." Charles used telepathy to see the Red Devil through an undead crew member, but then the man was killed, and sighed, "The crew of the Aral Sea were all killed by the Red Devil." A murderous look flashed in Eric's eyes, and he said with certainty, "Shell must be still up there. He wants to steer the ship to the embargo line. Once this cargo ship crosses the embargo line, it will be bombarded by us, and the war will begin." Moira worried. "Unless we have a way to prevent cargo ships from going through the ban." Su Moching looked at Charles. "Can't you look at the Red Devil? Although the Red Devil is not a spiritual ability, I can't control his thoughts." Charles shook his head. Su Moching thoughtfully, then said, "Then those who control the Soviet Union, fire and sink the cargo ship." "That's a good idea." Charles nodded, his mental power radiated, and he controlled an officer on a Soviet warship to press the launch button at the cargo ship. Wow! A missile flew out of the Soviet warship and directed it towards the cargo ship Aral Sea. The Red Devil on the freighter looked at the flying missiles and immediately used teleport to leave. Boom! As soon as the Red Devil walked away, the missile bombarded the Aral Sea freighter and immediately exploded it. In the flames of the explosion, the flooded Aral Sea slowly sank. The United States fleet and the Soviet fleet were a little caught off guard, especially the Soviet commander. He turned to look at the officer who launched the missile just now. He seemed lucky and admired, saying, "Congratulations, you stopped a war and brought him to confinement. Go to the room." What? The unlucky officer who had just escaped from Charles's control was escorted out of the command room by 2 soldiers without knowing what had happened. At the same time, in the deep sea, a nuclear submarine was affected by the aftermath of the explosion and shook. Sebastian Shaw questioned, "What's the matter?" The Red Devil appeared suddenly and said, "It's the Soviets, they are shooting at their freighter." "No, it seems that our compatriots are here. The mind controller is really troublesome. It seems that we are going to use a backup plan," Sebastian Shaw said, putting on a helmet that isolates mental power, and then walked to the nuclear energy room, ready to absorb nuclear energy to enhance his strength and prepare for the decisive battle. On a supersonic plane, Charles could not perceive the position of Shao and others. He must be underwater. Eric looked a little impatient. Hank said helplessly, "But we don't have a sonar." Su Moching looked at Sean. "Sir, it's time for you to perform." "No problem, look at me." Sean smiled and, accompanied by Charles and Eric, came to the front of the cabin. Hank opened the hatch. Sean looked at the sea below, took a deep breath, and then jumped, using the ultrasound and the flying suit on his body to perform the flight. After slowing down, he rushed into the sea. What? Sean opened his mouth and emitted an ultrasonic wave to locate the nuclear submarine. Found it. Charles linked Sean's consciousness, and then conveyed the location of the nuclear submarine to Eric and Hank's mind. Hank flew the plane to the top of the nuclear submarine and opened the cabin at the bottom. Su Moching unfastened his seatbelt and stood on the landing gear of the plane with Eric. Su Moching asked Eric, "Are you ready?" "Definitely, I have been preparing." As Eric spoke, using his ability, he began to suck at the nuclear submarine below. I have to say that Magneto is a spectacle person. Under his control, a huge gray submarine was slowly pulled out of the sea, violating gravity and floating in the sky. Such a shocking and subverting common sense scene shocked the people of the United States and the Soviet Union, all with stunned expressions. The nuclear submarine was taken off the water, and under Eric's control, it approached towards the small island ahead, ready to take it ashore and slowly tidy up. The rapids in the nuclear submarine, the Red Devil, El Salvador and others also noticed the anomaly. Riptide opened the top cover of the nuclear submarine and stood on the nuclear submarine. He was about to use the airflow control ability to wind up the storm, only to see a flame burning on the palm of Su Moching's palm, and he looked at him with a smile on his face. Riptide had learned the lesson from last time, and immediately did not dare to mess around, but at this moment, the Red Devil teleported into the supersonic plane and smashed the instrument on the bridge. The plane suddenly lost control and crashed downwards. Su Moching and Eric standing on the tripod were thrown out in an instant. Eric controlled the metal on his hands and feet to float himself in the air. Su Moching also used Yukong flight to stand in the air. But if the plane that is out of control is not rescued, Hank, Charles, and Alex Darwin inside will be in danger. Although Eric was a little curious about why Su Moching could fly, but at the moment was not the time to ask this. He made a decisive decision and completely gave up the control of the nuclear submarine. He applied his own ability to the plane and controlled it to land on the island smoothly, except for Charles. The skin was broken, and no one else was hurt. The nuclear submarine was not so lucky. After losing control, it rolled a few times, fell on the beach of the island, and fell into 2 knots. It can be regarded as the rapids and other people's lives. The rapids were thrown into the sea, and the Red Devil used teleport to land steadily. It was also unlucky for El Salvador, and was thrown away. Both parties came out, and the first battle of X-Men officially opened. On the small island of Cuba, Mutant, who was fighting for different goals, confronted each other on the smoky beach. "It's Shao that I want to kill, get out of me!" Eric roared, and while waving his hands, the broken metal shell of the nuclear submarine immediately wrapped around the Red Devil and El Salvador. The 2 pairs of dragonfly wings behind Salvador quickly fluttered and flew up to avoid the metal. The Red Devil teleported directly behind Hank and Darwin, and stabbed Hank and Darwin with 2 swords in his hands. Court death. With a wave of his hand, Eric instantly controlled the long knife in the Red Devil's hand, making it impossible for the Red Devil to move forward. Hank and Darwin reacted, turned and punched them, slamming them in the face of the Red Devil. The Red Devil, as a veteran mutant, has experienced many battles. The moment the 2 knives were out of control, he knew that it was not good, and he teleported and appeared on the nuclear submarine. However, as soon as the Red Devil appeared, an iron chain flew out of the void, and the Red Devil couldn't react in time, and was immediately trapped. What? How is it possible? Trapped by the chain, the Red Devil was in a state of uncertainty. At the same time, he felt that the flame above the chain was burning his body and soul. He immediately wanted to teleport and escape again, but the other end of the chain seemed to be dragging a giant. Let him use the strength of breastfeeding, still unable to break free. Can't take it, can't take it. The Red Devil's heart fell to the bottom and fell into deep despair. This was all in Su Moching's calculations. The iron chain in the void was overridden by the small three-headed dog of hell in the psychic space. After binding the Red Devil, the small 3 was caught by Honglian, holding onto the body. Although the Red Devil's teleportation can take people, the number is limited. After reaching a certain weight, the Red Devil is powerless, not to mention the small third, plus it is more than 60 meters high and the big fat Pier Honglian is nearly 100 meters long. It would be strange if he could move it. As for how Su Moching knew where the Red Devil appeared, it was because he had just used the ability of time reset. Compared with others, Su Moching was equivalent to 1 minute of predicting ability and naturally knew where the Red Devil would appear. Wow! Xiao Sunyi pulled the iron chain, and the Red Devil felt an irresistible force coming from the other side of the iron chain, and his body was quickly taken away. With a Swish, the iron chain retracted psychic space, and the Red Devil's body was blocked by a narrow space channel and cut into 2 sections. Ah! The Red Devil seemed to be chopped in the waist, with his upper body and legs separated, dripping with blood. Because his vitality was different from ordinary people, he had not died for a while, and after screaming in the sand, he completely died. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the Red Devil and rewarding 2,500 psychic points. After hearing the system prompt, Su Moching sighed. In his opinion, the Red Devil is the most difficult person to deal with. The Red Devil had already suffered a loss last time, and he would definitely not dare to attack him in close proximity. If the Red Devil tried to escape, Su Moching couldn't help him. That's why a plan for the Red Devil was formulated in advance, and the enemy's strongest support was killed, so as not to cause him trouble. Su Moching is not like Charles, who is kind to the enemy, but cruel to himself. What's more, the Red Devil is not a good kind, killing is for the people, so Su Moching will not feel guilty. Charles, Salvador and others saw the Red Devil suddenly die tragically on the spot, all their complexions changed. They had seen Su Moching use the flaming iron chain, so they all looked at Su Moching. Su Moching glanced at El Salvador and the torrent that had just risen from the sea. I don't want to hurt you, but if you plan to continue to fight against me, you must be ready to die. Goo! Feeling Su Moching's undisguised killing intent, both Torrent and Salvador couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Looking at the miserable Red Devil, they all knew that Su Moching was not joking. Charles was also afraid of Su Moching's ruthless hand, and immediately used telepathy to control the Rapids and Salvador's thoughts, and let Darwin and Alex arrest them. At the same time, Eric, who was filled with hatred, rushed into the nuclear submarine regardless, and was about to talk to Xiao and try to kill him by the way. Xiao, get out of here. Eric walked into the nuclear submarine, roared angrily, transported magnetic field control, opened a metal door, and searched for the trace of Sebastian Shaw. Using the ability of telepathy, Charles knew from the memory of the torrent that Xiao was absorbing nuclear energy, and his expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly linked Eric's consciousness and said, Eric, Xiao is in the power room in front of you. He is absorbing nuclear energy. You must move faster. Power room. Eric looked forward. Just then, the door to the power room opened and Sebastian Shaw, who had absorbed nuclear energy, walked out. Eric, we're seeing each other again. Sebastian Shaw, wearing a helmet that isolates mental power, looked at Eric with a smile, as if he was a relative who hadn't seen him for many years. This is the last time, die for me. As soon as I saw Xiao, Eric was like a firecracker that was lit, and it exploded in an instant. However, Eric did not lose his mind. After learning about Xiao's abilities and defects, he also thought of a way to deal with Xiao. With a big wave of his hand, pieces of steel plates and iron sheets spun around and wrapped Xiao. Eric is going to trap Xiao with metal, and then throw it into the sea, drowning Xiao alive. Eric, it seems that you have learned to be smart, but it's a pity that you can't hold me down. If it were normal times, Sebastian Shaw without energy absorbing would really fall into Eric's hands. But at the moment Xiao had absorbed nuclear energy, like a human-shaped nuclear bomb, several layers of steel could not trap him at all. I saw that the iron sheet trapping Xiao seemed to be melted by the high temperature, and a big hole was melted directly. Xiao gracefully lifted his suit and walked out of it calmly. Then he reached out his hand and pointed at Eric, and an energy projectile flew out. Eric hurriedly overpowered the metal to block him, but he was still blown out, dizzy and bleeding from his nose. Eric, we are all atomic children. Come with me. We are the same kind of people. Let us create the world that belongs to our mutant. Sebastian Shaw didn't know what to think and killed Eric's mother has a special affection for Eric and has never been cruel to Eric. If Xiao didn't kill Eric's mother, perhaps Eric would agree with Xiao's point of view, but at the moment, Eric only thought about how to kill the other person. Su Moching walked into the nuclear submarine and saw Xiao Babu pressing forward, like a cat and mouse, teasing Eric, and immediately grabbed Eric and exited the nuclear submarine. Boom! Soon after Su Moching took Eric out of the nuclear submarine exploded, and Sebastian Xiao Shanting walked out of the fire. Looking over Eric, Su Moching, Charles and others, Sebastian Shaw sighed, why are you against me? Just for those lowly and shameless low-level humans. It's ridiculous, even if you pay more for them, they will not be grateful to you, but will find ways to eliminate our mutant. Is it worth it? Sebastian Shaw's words are very contagious from the heart. Although Shaw is not a good person, he does take special care of mutant. I am for my mother. Eric is a person who values family affection, but no matter what the righteousness is, he roared angrily, and with a sudden wave of his right hand, 2 waist-thick channels flew out of the nuclear submarine damage, which bound Shao inside like a twist. Eric, you disappointed me so much. Sebastian was squeezed by the steel, but did not suffer any damage. The force of the squeezing was directly absorbed by him, and his hands pushed outward, and the channel steel was bent by him like gluten. I don't want to hurt you, but you shouldn't stand in front of me. Since you are going to be my enemy, go to death. Sebastian Shaw focused on Su Moqing. It starts with you. Boom. Sebastian Shaw stepped on his feet, and the destructive explosive force quickly spread along the ground to where Su Moqing was. Psychicism. Honglian. Su Moqing's hands had a pattern of imprints, and then he patted the ground, and in a moment, a figure of huge amounts of rushed out of the void. Boom. With the violent explosion, Godzilla, who was 96 meters long, 68 meters tall, and weighed 28,690 tons, made his first appearance in front of people. Roar. Honglian was hit by Shao's attack, and his skin didn't break a bit. He opened his mouth and roared, bringing a gust of wind, flying sand and rocks, and his eyes were confused. What is this? God, blame, monster. Let's get out of here soon. Charles, Eric and others looked at the huge monster that suddenly appeared, and instantly felt how small they were. If a corner of the giant beast in front of them stepped on, they would definitely be crushed to death like ants. Su Moqing turned to look at Charles and others who were about to run away, and shouted, Eric, Charles, grab the tail, this is my psychic beast, don't worry. What? Charles and the others almost dropped their jaws, but they chose to believe in Su Moqing, and took Salvador and Riptide and climbed onto Godzilla's tail. Under Su Moqing's instruction, Godzilla slowly turned his tail and put Charles, Darwin and others on his back. Su Moqing reminded, hurry up, there may be some bumps in a while. At the same time, on the sea level, the people on Misu's warship group clearly saw Godzilla's true face. God's is in the size of Lapon, with a thick and tight cuticle scale on his body. These scales are harder than steel and are strong enough to resist the impact of missiles. 2 sturdy thighs, full of explosive power. The tail is slender, flexible and powerful, and as flexible as a whip. The image of Godzilla resembles a dinosaur, but also specious, with a coral-like sword ridge protruding behind it, which looks ancient, sturdy, and shocking. Quickly, link me to the Ministry of Defense, we need a new plan. The commander of the United States Fleet, Johnson swallowed, and quickly asked the liaison officer to report the situation here. The same is true for the Soviet Union. The release of mutant before has made them feel incredible. Now that this kind of monster of the Overlord level appeared again, they really couldn't make up their minds, and they didn't dare to act rashly. Sebastian Shaw was in a daze, looking up at the behemoth in front of him, feeling a sudden change in his painting style. He came to trigger a nuclear war, how could he become a monster beast? Su Moqing stood on the top of Godzilla's head, watching Charles and others stand firm, and then looked down at Sebastian below condescendingly, with both hands on his shoulders, and said loudly, Shao, you know so much about this world. You think that nuclear war will destroy mankind and make mutants stronger, but this is just your wishful thinking. In fact, there are still many ancient emperor beasts in this world. They fall asleep due to lack of energy. Once a nuclear war breaks out, they can absorb nuclear radiation and wake up. What do you think will be the consequences? Quote, it turned out to be your ghost, but it's just a bigger beast. You think you can defeat me in this way? Shao was enveloped in the shadow of Godzilla, raising his head to speak, feeling a little uncomfortable in his neck. Really, you don't like energy absorbing, this time I will let you inhale enough at a time, Gurren, use atoms to breathe. When Godzilla heard Su Moqing's command, he opened the horrifying, blood basin mouth, his body was like an atomic transformation furnace, running energy quickly, radiating a powerful biological electric current above the head, and the mouth was shining with blue light. The next moment, Zitsa, the interlaced and harsh neighing of electric current was heard in the air, and a terrifying blue light beam spewed out from Honglian's mouth. Wow, The big blue beam lost out, making Godzilla's body shake slightly too. Countless people looked at the scene in front of them, as if the air was freezing, and time was still here. Su-Mi and the two armies were able to watch the scene in front of them. Everyone's eyes widened, and their eyes were full of fear, horror, and heaviness. Boom! Sebastian Shao's figure was instantly engulfed by the breath of atoms. Although he absorbed huge amounts of energy at an extremely fast speed, Shao's energy absorbing also had its limits when manpower was poor. And Godzilla's atomic breath is not weaker than a nuclear bomb, and even more concentrated. Shaoji persisted for 3 seconds before being vaporized by atomic breath, leaving no bones. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the Black Emperor Shao. Reward 10,000 psychic points, and then psychic once. Rumble. Although Shao died, the atomic breath was not eliminated immediately, and a large crater was immediately blasted out of the bombed area. The powerful shockwave spread out, flying sand and rocks, blue seas and waves, and the United States Soviet warships were swept by the waves. Although it would not sink, many people fell into the sea as a result. Rest. Godzilla stopped spraying atomic breath, and there was a puff of smoke in his mouth, dissipating residual heat. Su Moching jumped to where Charles and others were, and said casually, "Shao is dead, everything is over." Quote. Alex patted Godzilla's hard skin and said nervously, "Su, is it your pet?" "Forget it, it's called Honglian, it's my psychic beast." Su Moching explained. Darwin exclaimed, "It's so cool, it's a miracle in nature." Psychic beast. Then, Charles also wanted to ask some questions about Godzilla. Eric interrupted. "Guys, the war is not over, it has just begun." "Eric, what do you want to do?" Charles frowned. Eric pointed to the two fleets on the sea expressionlessly. "We are fighting to stop the war, but those despicable humans have betrayed us, and they are preparing to attack us." Although Shao is an executioner, some of his ideas are not wrong. Only by overthrowing the rule of mankind can we mutant have a future. Now, my compatriots, where do you choose? Quote. Su Moching looked down at the sea, and through Eagle's eye he found that the battleships had turned their muzzles and pointed them in the direction they were. Sean was surprised. "Humans are going to attack us." "It's impossible," Moira yelled in shock. "No. How could this be? It shouldn't be like this." Charles was also incredulous. Through telepathy he learned that Sumi and the two countries decided to kill them all at once, but he didn't want to believe it in his heart. Su Moching glanced at Charles, but didn't count on him. Charles was the kind of person who was beaten on the left cheek and sent his right cheek to be beaten. To say that it sounds good as the virgin, and that it sounds bad as to be guilty. Rumble. Just when Charles, Moira, and others were in a state of uncertainty, on the distant sea, the naval guns on both sides of the Misu roared. One by one, shells and missiles were overwhelmingly facing Su Moching and their location, and they launched a carpet bombing. The fish see food but not the hook, and the man sees the benefits but not the harm. The emergence of mutant is an extremely unstable factor for humans. In order to preserve the power in their hands, certain self-righteous people will always do some brain-dead things. The United States Department of Defense, in the spacious conference room, at the moment is having heated discussions, and the issue discussed is the attitude towards mutant. An old congressman led said, "The people of the Soviet Union have always been with us, and jointly attack the mutant and the monster on the island. We can end this threat forever. This opportunity is not to be missed." Howard Stark, one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D., stood up and said, "You can't do this. Sue is there too. They are fighting to stop a nuclear war. If something happens to Sue, the United States will also be turbulent." Quote. Howard, who is nearly 46 years old, created S.H.I.E.L.D. with Carter's agent and a part of the top executives of the United States a few years ago. Together with Howard's original identity, he has a certain influence. Su Moching also has some forces in the United States military, and some people have expressed disagreement to launch an attack. There are disputes where there are people. There are those who want to save Su Moching, and there are those who want Su Moching to die, and there are more such people. A gray-haired admiral righteously said, "Who knows that Su is a mutant, and also has such a big monster? We can't let him go anymore. The existence of those mutants has threatened human society. We must completely eliminate them before they cause more harm. You don't even know what a stupid decision you were making." Howard patted the table and glared at the general. Howard, calm down, I know you and Sue are friends, but this concerns us as a whole. He hides too many secrets, and we can't take risks. The Secretary of Defense said solemnly. The existence of Sue Moching is not a secret to the senior executives of the United States, but Sue Moching holds a lot of economic lifeline, and he has no secrets and has no handle to grasp, so the United States political axe also opened its eyes. Close one eye. But the form is different now. The emergence of mutant has had an impact on human society. Regardless of whether mutant wants to overthrow the rule of mankind, it's just that mutant has the power to overthrow mankind, and that is something absolutely intolerable. Both sides held their own opinions, and after a quarrel, they finally adopted a democratic method and voted with a show of hands. The result is obvious. Except for Howard and a few congressmen, most people raised their hands in favor of a war on mutant. Cuban waters. Boom boom. Thousands of shells and missiles, dragging a long smoke tail, attacked the island where Sue Moching and others were located. Sue Moching is calm, because he knows Eric's ability. Charles, Darwin, Alex, and others looked at the missiles flying in, feeling very uncomfortable and apprehensive. Stop firing. Stop firing. Moira took the satellite phone and connected to the CIA, trying to get those high-level officers to stop the attack. But when the CIA received the order, no one paid any attention to Moira. Perhaps in the eyes of these high-level officials, as long as the hidden danger of mutant can be eliminated, the little Agent Moira is worth the sacrifice. The big deal is to chase the title of a hero, and pay a little more pension, even if the benevolence is exhausted. My fellow citizens, you have all seen it. Humanity has declared war on us. Countless shells and missiles shot across the sky towards the island. Even Sue Moching, who had known it so long ago, was very upset at the moment. Godzilla turned his head to look at the flying missile. There was some restlessness. Sue Moching comforted him. Just when the missile was about to hit Godzilla, Eric stretched his hands to the sky and a huge magnetic storm erupted. The flying missile shells froze in midair. Oh, God! The officers and soldiers on the Soviet and Mi fleets were all shocked to see this scene. Mutants' ability surpassed their imagination, and the unknown fear invisible spread. See, this is human beings, our reward. Eric was filled with righteous indignation and turned to look at Charles, another mutant. We just stopped a nuclear war and saved the world, but they want us to die. These fools. Fact squid. In the hearts of young mutants such as Alex, Darwin and Hank, at the moment was very painful and angry. They worked desperately. Well, they did not contribute much this time, but they can be regarded as helping Sue Moching save world peace and fight for the safety of all mankind. But these people shed their grievances and kill the donkeys, and in turn beat them up. How can they not be angry? Charles's mentality calmed down quickly, and he persuaded Eric. Eric, we are not Shao, we are the next stage of human evolution, we are still humans, now is the time to prove it. When Sue Moching heard Charles's words, he was both admired and speechless. Such a sage mood, Sue Moching said, another layman, I really can't agree. In contrast, he still prefers tooth for tooth and blood for blood. Being a human being, what you want is fairness. So Moching Sue did not intend to stop Eric at all. Hearing this, Eric looked at Charles angrily and shouted, Charles, when will you deceive yourself? Humans won't live in peace with mutant. Look at these missiles hanging over our heads. This is them. Attitude towards mutant. While talking, Eric oversaw the magnetic field, turned all the artillery shells and missiles around, and pushed them toward the fleet of the Misu twins. He wanted these people to pay for his actions. No, Eric, there are thousands of people on those boats. They are all innocent. They just obeyed. Charles rushed over and took Eric's hand. Affected by Charles, Eric's control became chaotic. Some shells fell and collided with each other, causing a series of explosions. Eric pushed Charles away and shouted angrily, Can you kill us mutant unscrupulously by obeying orders? Charles, when will you understand that humans will not accept us? They are a group of greedy, hungry wolves. Even you, no matter how much you pay for them, they will still be hostile to you, squeeze you out, and find ways to kill us. Eric said, controlling the remaining shells and continuing to fly towards the fleet. Sorry, I can't let you do this. War is not the best way to solve the problem. Charles said, using mind control to control Eric's consciousness. Because of Sue Moching's intervention, the plot has changed. Xiao and the helmet that can insulate mental power were melted by Godzilla's atomic breath, and Eric naturally couldn't stop Charles's mental power. The moment Eric lost his mind, those missiles suddenly lost control and fell to the sea below. Some of them collided, and a series of explosions should be sent out. Charles only gave up control of Eric after the missile fell into the water, or crashed and exploded. Seeing this result, Eric, who broke away from mind control, punched Charles and yelled at the same time, "You coward who dare not resist, you have the ability to control me, why don't you dare to fight for our compatriots? I don't have your brother." "Eric, calm down, the war will only make the world worse." Charles persuaded him painstakingly. But Eric was very disappointed with Charles. The two had quarreled many times for mutants' future in private. Charles believes that mutants should coexist peacefully with humans and strive for human recognition. Eric believes that humans will not accept the existence of mutant, and only through force can the status of mutant be improved. Originally Eric thought that when Charles saw the ugly faces of humans, Charles would change, but now it seems that the other party is still so stubborn. With a sigh in his heart, Eric looked at Su Moching, Alex and others. Since humans have launched an attack, there must be a second and third time. I will fight for the future of mutant and protect mutant from the persecution of mankind. Anyone willing to come with me? Hearing what Eric said, Su Moching remained silent, and the others felt a little heavier and struggling. Alex, Darwin, Sean, El Salvador, Hank, and Torrent have their own thoughts, and their eyes are constantly wandering between Charles, Eric and Su Moching. The overwhelming artillery shells have already expressed the attitude of humans towards mutant. Now it is up to them to make a choice. Among the three giants of this small group, Charles advocates peaceful coexistence with mankind. Eric advocates fighting against humans. Only Su Moching's attitude was unclear, so in the end everyone looked at Su Moching, wanting to see his choice. Seeing everyone looking at him, Su Moching said, "Whether it is a human or a mutant, there are good and bad. You can't generalize or generalize. Those idiots, I will make them pay." Having said this, Su Moching looked at Eric. "Although your idea is correct, it is a bit extreme and your vision is too narrow. There are not only mutants and humans in this world, but there are also some ancient mysterious existences. And in the distant outer space, there are many powerful alien races eyeing. I can't be with you to fight against humanity. I am ready to build a force of my own to prevent emergencies, but if you encounter difficulties, you can contact me at any time. I will always be your backing and can provide for mutant shelter." Quote. Eric heard this, was silent for a moment, and said, "Thank you, Su, we will always be brothers." Su Moching smiled and nodded. Since knowing that Magneto will have a few beautiful daughters, Magneto is a friend, he's settled. In the end, the young mutant started to stand in line, and El Salvador, Torrent, and Sean chose to follow Eric. Alex, Hank chooses to follow Charles. Darwin chose to follow Su Moching. Different choices mean that they will face different fate. This is not a place to stay for a long time. Let's leave first before talking. Hurry up, Honglian, let's go. Su Moching reminded, and then let Godzilla walk towards the sea. Boom boom. Godzilla moved his legs, shaking the mountain with every step, and moving forward toward the sea. Although Godzilla was huge, his speed was not slow. He didn't get into the sea in 3 or 2, only showing his broad back, facing the distance. Swim away. The people on the fleets of the Missouri and Soviet Unions watched Su Moching and the others swaggering away. They didn't dare to get out of the air. They watched them leave, feeling powerless, fearful, annoyed, and mixed feelings. Su Moching didn't bother to pay attention to the thoughts of these people. If it weren't for the small loss, Su Moching would have asked Godzilla to destroy them with an atomic breath. In the wild ocean, Godzilla traveled across the sea at a speed of 50 knots. On the way, Charles asked Su Moching a lot of questions, such as what is a psychic beast? What kind of existence does Godzilla exist? How did Su Moching conquer it and summon it? Regarding these questions, Su Moching had already figured out his rhetoric. Anyway, Charles couldn't read Su Moching's memory, and it was easy to perfuse them. Putting down the satellite phone, Su Moching turned to Eric and Charles and the others and said, "I have arranged manpower, and there will be a helicopter to pick you up later. Also, people who are careful about the military, I believe that they will set up a special purpose to deal with mutant in the near future. Organization. The plot nowadays has changed a lot. The death of the Red Devil made Eric and the others unable to teleport and escape. Charles was not shot accidentally and he had a hemiplegia, but it was still because of a conceptual problem that he fell out with Eric. Among the group, Moira was the most embarrassed, and did not say a word along the way. As a CIA agent, she has the consciousness to sacrifice for the country, but sacrifice and being abandoned are two different things. Nowadays, there are some complaints in her heart. Su Moching cast a glance, Moira, who was leaning against Charles, thoughtfully. Now that Charles is not hemiplegic, maybe there will be some sparks with Moira. But this is not a big deal, Su Moching doesn't care. This time he took the initiative to expose himself and summoned Godzilla, which was actually intentional. It's a temptation, and it's a set-off, depending on which fish will get the bait. In recent years, Su Moching's business empire has controlled more than half of the United States. There are also many branches in other countries. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is a wealthy country. Naturally, there are many jealous people. He doesn't believe that the United States executives will not know that they are in Cuba, but the other party still chooses to bomb, apparently planning to kill him and then carve up his industry. Through this incident, Su Moching can clearly distinguish those who need to be eradicated, and those who have emerged. He will naturally clean up after he returns. As for exposing Godzilla, it is to guide others and let them know that there are giant behemoths in this world. I believe it will not be long before someone will start work in this area. At the same time can also play a deterrent effect. There are benefits, and there will be some troubles, but they are all in Su Moching's grasp. After a while, 2 helicopters flew in and picked up Charles, Moira, Eric and others. Su Moching took Godzilla back into the psychic space and then looked at Darwin standing behind him. You will be responsible for recruiting people with special abilities for me and organizing a special team. I will give you 300 million startup funds, no problem. 300 million. 2 weeks passed after the first battle in a blink of an eye. After the First War, Charles took Hank, Alex, and Moira from the CIA, and began to work on transforming the Xavier Zhuangyuan, turning it into the Xavier Genius Academy, serving as a shelter for mutant and war orphans. During the period, there were originally some extreme humanists who were going to come to find trouble, but soon these people were overwhelmed. Because after Su Moching went back, he used the power in his hand to start liquidating the old accounts one by one against those who jumped higher, causing a bloody storm. At the same time, the use of Longtang Technology Group and other companies caused an unprecedented financial turmoil, which almost paralyzed the United States economy, caused prices to continue to fall, and countless people took to the streets to make a noise. The entire United States was turbulent. Mr. X realized the seriousness of the problem. If you want to say, there are always some people who are born to be cheap. Usually Su Moching behaves a little low-key and kind. These people push their noses on their faces, always wanting to step on them twice, or dig 2 pieces of meat from Su Moching. Whenever something goes wrong, I will ask for mercy everywhere. In P. Lien, I don't know if it's their standard equipment. At the same time, Eric replaced the Black Emperor Shao, took over a group of mutant subordinates, and then established Brotherhood to fight for the future of mutant. Some institutions that captured mutant for experimentation were knocked out by Brotherhood, causing serious deaths and injuries. Panic. And Charles began to sing White Faces, got in touch with some dovish counselors, and had a singularity with Eric, forming a situation of mutual restraint. In a harmonious society, most people still want to make big things smaller and smaller ones. Although there was occasional friction between humans and mutant, in general, it gradually subsided. Under the night, the bright moon and breeze. In Stark's Zhuangyuan, a dinner is being held to celebrate the full moon of Howard's son. Howard wears a formal mustache, holding a wine glass, and solemnly said to the handsome young man in front of him, "Sue, I know they are really too much this time, but now things are so big that even members of Congress you should be satisfied with the next batch. These fool, if you don't let them see the form clearly, they don't know how many pounds they are. Don't worry, I have a sense of measure." Su Moching said, changing the subject. "Don't talk about these unhappy things, or talk about you. My son." Howard nodded, and then there was a slight hint of color on his face. "In other words, I can't compare to you, but I am a father now. Why haven't you two moved yet? It's not you, right?" In the end, this coquettish old man winked his eyes with an expression of undue beating. Cut, I can't, I'm afraid you will feel inferior if you take it out. The corner of Su Moching's mouth twitched slightly. The ability of monster physique gave him almost immortal ability, but at the same time that he was willing to have something to do, and to obtain a long life, it also meant that Su Moching would have more in terms of reproduction of offspring. The prohibition of layer invisible. This is a special cosmic law. Regarding this, Su Moching is not in a hurry. Anyway, he has a long life. It doesn't matter if he doesn't have any children. You can enjoy life if you should. If you give birth to 2 cheats, you don't know how much you have to worry about, that's good. In the words of Su Moching, husband and wife are true love, and children are just accidents. After chatting with Howard, Su Moching suddenly said, your son's name is Tony Stark, right? Hold me over and let me see if he has the same virtue with you. My son, definitely have a virtue with me. Howard smiled and asked the butler Jarvis to inform him. After a while, a graceful woman walked over with a child with a full moon. Su Moching looked at the blue-eyed child who was still biting the pacifier, and said in his heart, this is the famous Iron Man in the future. Gently teasing little Tony with his hand, Su Moching patted Howard on the shoulder and smiled. This kid is not bad, give me face, let him be my godson. Quote. Howard looked at Su Moching for a while, then smiled, no problem. Su Moching smiled wickedly, then took out his camera and took a few photos of Tony, which he called it, leaving a memory of his childhood. There were a lot of people here tonight, and Howard was busy. Su Moching asked him to arrange it himself. After the dinner, Su Moching drove the latest speed car launched by the Stark Group and returned to Longtangzhuang Courtyard. In the smoky artificial hot spring, Su Moching soaked in the water comfortably and relaxed. Suddenly, she felt that the wooden door outside the hot spring pool was opened. Then she saw Feng Baobao and Raven walking over in bathrobes. Brother Su, I'll wipe your back. Raven walked forward with a smile. Baby Feng is still cute, and he walks into the hot spring pool generously, spitting out blisters. Su Moching smirked and took Raven's hand and pulled her into the water. Raven let out a startled roar. The water splashed all over, and just now, Su Moching had come to her and kissed Raven's red lips. After a while, Su Moching smiled. Little witch, I suddenly had a bold idea, do you want to? Baby Feng on the side took out a cold shining long knife from nowhere, and said quietly, no, you don't want to. Baby, you're skinny too. Su Moching flashed, brought a large splash of water, and then a series of hot groans sounded. It's another wonderful night. The next day, Su Moching became refreshed and checked his personal interface. Host, Su Moching, current psychic points, 114,986. Level, early stage of the disaster. Psychic creatures, Godzilla, costume, predator, hell three-headed dog, King Kong, unicorn, Omega, Delu beast. Ability, monster physique, eagle eye, weapon mastery, hellfire, royal flight, time reset, gravity field. During this period of time, in addition to having stronger attributes, Su Moching previously killed the Black Emperor Shao and obtained random psychics, and it was Delu beast. With a thought, a petite white cat appeared in front of Su Moching. Although the Deluman looks like a cat, it was originally a precious sacred coefficient code beast, possessing power that is not commensurate with its appearance. It wears a sacred ring on the tail, stands on its hind legs, and wears a pair of gloves like lion claws on both front paws. Master, do you have anything to say for calling me? Deluman uttered a word, and walked to the side of Su Moching with graceful catwalks. Su Moching stroked the furry head of the Deluman with his hand, and at the same time checked the properties of the Deluman. Psychic beast, Delu beast. Category, sacred digital. Status, mature. Potential, world-destroying level. Current level, late elite. Ability, meow punch, cat eye. Chapter 51. Su Moching is no stranger to Deluman. When he watched Digimon, when he was a child, he also hoped that he would be accompanied by a Digimon to travel the world. It's a relatively happy childhood memory. Moreover, it seems that the complete body of the Delu beast is the celestial beast. Thinking of this, Su Moching seems to have another bold idea. Then he shook his head and threw this evil idea away. Xiao Di, you and Xiao San will have activities in this village in the future. When I'm away, help me protect my baby and Raven." As Su Moqing spoke, he also summoned the three-headed dog from the hell. Under Su Moqing's signal, the three-headed hell dog shrank and turned into an ordinary black dog file size. The left and right heads were also retracted into the body. From the outside, it is a big black dog, but if you look down on it, it will definitely eat. Big loss. In recent days, Su Moqing has done a lot of things, which have affected the interests of many people. Some people who do not know how to live or die, who are clearly unable to fight, sent people to assassinate. Although they were all easily resolved by Su Moqing, for the safety of Bao Bao Feng and Raven, Su Moqing still let the two less conspicuous psychic beasts, Delu and Hell Three-Headed Dog, visit the home nursing home. As for Godzilla and King Kong, because they are too big, they can only be stocked on Skull Island, while Costin, Omega, and Alpha are not very powerful. They are also placed on Skull Island and let King Kong and Godzilla take care of them. The strength of the unicorn is good, but the unicorn on its head is not easy to hide, so it is also placed on Skull Island. In addition, Iron-Blooded Johnson has been mixing well over the years, and he is about to be promoted to the Iron-Blooded Elder. He has several thousand iron-blooded little brothers. The former Roar embraces him and carries a group of little brothers from this universe to that universe all day long. Su Moqing has considered whether to bring a few iron-blooded teams over to be the guards. However, I think that there are more eyeliners watching here recently, so I didn't implement it to avoid unnecessary trouble. After all, the identity of a mutant has caused an uproar. If the existence of aliens is exposed again, the ghost knows whether those idiots will directly wash the ground with nuclear bombs. After the psychic arrived at the Deluman, Su Moqing got another chance to extract ability, but he didn't extract it for the time being, and he was going to wait for the Deluman to evolve, and then take a look. After the Delu Beast and the three-headed dog of hell were settled, Su Moqing sent his heart to the Jagged Mother Star through psychic space. Under the leadership of Jagged Johnson, Su Moqing came to a huge amounts of laboratory, which was filled with various science fiction instruments, and several Jagged scientists were busy. On a platform not far away, there was a corpse, or half of it. If Eric and the others were here, they would definitely recognize that this corpse without the lower body is the Red Devil. When Godzilla was using atomic breath on a small island in Cuban waters, Su Moqing took the opportunity to open psychic space and let the three-headed hell dog pull the upper body of the Red Devil in. Su Moqing is still very interested in the ability of the Red Devil's teleportation. If the X gene in the opponent's body can be extracted, it is naturally best. System task: Dawn of the Night. Narration: a long time ago, there was a man who experienced a plague and everyone in the village died, but he was the only one who survived and found himself immune to disease. He was the first immortal, Alexander Cavinus. Cavinus has at least 3 sons, 2 of whom are William and Marcus. William became the ancestor of werewolves after being bitten by a wolf, while Marcus was bitten by a bat and became the ancestor of vampires. However, as a white werewolf, William has no self-reason. People who have been bitten by him will become werewolves, but they are as irrational as William. They cannot return to human form and are contagious. In order to save William, Marcus went to help a dying Lord Victor, gave him unlimited life, and asked him to help him control William, and then lie to kill him or William will kill all vampires and werewolves. So, with their efforts, they caught William. Victor wants to imprison William. Marcus hopes that he will not do so, but he fails to persuade him because he has no real power in the Vampire Legion. The 2 races of vampire and werewolf have fought for centuries in order to obtain absolute dominance of the underground world. In the protracted contest, the vampire tribe gained the upper hand. Compared with the savage werewolves, the vampire society is more formal and organized. However, the werewolf tribe remains the biggest threat to their noble status if they are not eliminated for a day. As a result, the leaders of the vampire society formed a troupe composed of the most elite fighters among the vampires, Death Walker, and the task of all members was to eliminate the werewolves without mercy. Selena is one of them. Mission requirements: help Selena get revenge and help her obtain ability that is not afraid of the sun. The time limit is 1 month. Completion reward: 1000 psychic points. Selena's allegiance, no penalty for failure. Does the host receive it? Underworld. Su Moching thought for a while, and after giving a few words to Jia Shui Johnson, he returned to psychic space and said, "Receive the task." The world of legends of the night. Rumble. At night in London, the sky was gloomy, and it was raining heavily, and occasionally a flash of lightning pierced the night sky. In the urban streets of the 1990s, rows of streetlights were on, illuminating a small space of each, but more places were still shrouded in darkness. On a European-style church, a beautiful European woman with a pale face and sharp eyes, even in a black leather trench coat, is quietly watching the pedestrians going back and forth on the street below. The shoulder-shouldered black short hair was messed up by the cold wind. Selena, known as the goddess of the moon, is tied to the stone eaves like a sculpture. The black leather trench coat reflects a faint brilliance in the lightning. Don't add a heroic appearance in the rain and wind. Selena let the cold rain drop on her face, like sapphire eyes, staring at the corner of the wall hundreds of meters away. On the corner of the wall is her vampire partner Kane. At the moment Kane was holding a point-and-shoot camera, secretly taking pictures of a big black man. This black man is not an ordinary person, but the werewolf king Lucian's capable man Rise, the chief warrior of the werewolf clan. After Kane took the photo, Selena watched Rise walk into the subway station, and immediately jumped off the top of the 20-meter-high building, and followed Rise quietly, wanting to see what the hell was the werewolf doing. A height of more than 20 meters is fatal for ordinary people, but it is commonplace for a Death Walker like Selena. As a member of Blood Clan, although there is no legendary black magic, but the physical quality is far beyond ordinary people, coupled with a long lifespan, let Selena learn a lot of fighting skills and various knowledge. At the moment, it was about 7 o'clock in the evening. It was the rush hour of the subway and crowded with pedestrians. Holding a black umbrella, Su Moching walked into the subway station along the flow of people. In the subway station, Su Moching put away the umbrella and hung it on the railing beside it. Stepping towards a young European man. This man is more than 20 years old. Some handsome, named Michael, is the male protagonist in Underworld, and a direct descendant of Alexander Cavinus, with perfect blood flowing in his body. It has been 2 days since Su Moching came to this world. I was able to find this place because Su Moching spent money to hire a private detective to investigate Michael. Michael is now a doctor. He has not been bitten by a werewolf or a vampire. The perfect blood in his body is fairly pure. Since this morning, Su Moching has been observing Michael's movements and found the traces of the werewolf. Because he hasn't seen Selena, he hasn't stunned the snake. Underworld is regarded as a science fiction movie. The vampires and werewolves in it are all genetically mutated creatures. They are not magical creatures, and they are not powerful. According to Su Moching's estimation, ordinary vampires and werewolves are only elite-level strengths at best. Victor, Marcus, and the giant werewolves can barely be regarded as the early days of the army, and Alexander Cavinus may be stronger, but it's too strong. The main thing is that modern weapons need to be guarded. Although in the original plot, no one used weapons of mass destruction, it was a movie after all. Now that you are on the scene, you have to be cautious to avoid capsize in the gutter. In this world, for Su Moching, the most valuable thing is perfect blood. Perfect blood, it is Su Moching who has the ability that makes people immortal. Michael has a weak lineage, and there is no such ability and can integrate different bloodlines, especially the latter, which Su Moching values. Following Michael into the subway station, Su Moching glanced back and found that the werewolf Ritz, the vampire Selena and the others came with their heels. Selena's appearance and temperament really make people feel amazing, cold and handsome, giving people a sense of heroism. Selena didn't notice Su Moching. At the moment, she was quietly following Rise and another werewolf. As a member of the Death Walker, Selena has been desperately hunting werewolves for hundreds of years. Because in her impression, the werewolves killed her family, her only belief now is to kill these brutal and inhuman beasts. A group of people with different goals came to the platform of the subway station. At this moment, the werewolf Rise sniffed and smelled an aura that disgusted him. He stopped suddenly and looked back. When he saw Celine Wen-Na and another Deathwalker, she directly drew 2 micro-submachine guns from her back, and fired at the location where Selena and another vampire were. Da da da. The bullet flew. Su Moching turned calmly, leaning against a thick square pillar. The stray bullet hit the head of the column, and the stone chips splashed. The pedestrians around who were driving the subway screamed and fled around. Some of the more unlucky ones were hit by the stray bullet and fell in a pool of blood. I have to say that the world is indeed chaotic. Even if you have a gun, the subway station doesn't even have a security check. Moreover, vampires and werewolves unscrupulously opened fire among the crowd, showing lawlessness. If under normal circumstances, vampires and werewolves would have been wiped out. Su Moching knows that the reason why vampires and werewolves can hide in the dark is all because they have an old ancestor behind them, Alexander Cavinus. Rise is one of the most proficient werewolves. He has a strong physique and is proficient in various weapons. He is an old werewolf who is several times old. If he is wolves, his strength, speed, and physical fitness will increase. Then it will be difficult to deal with ordinary firearms. Cause fatal injuries. As a deathwalker who specializes in hunting werewolves, Selena and the others are equipped with weapons, mostly silver weapons. As long as they hit, they can be crushed by the werewolf in order to kill. 3 vampires and 2 werewolves were in a gunfight. With the sound of gunfire, the surrounding crowd suddenly screamed. Some were scared to crawl on the ground, and some ran out of the subway station frantically. Selena was agile, rolled over and hid behind the stone pillar without being hit by Rise. But the other deathwalker who was on the mission with her was not so lucky. He was shot twice in the abdomen and fell to the ground. The vitality of a vampire is relatively strong. If it is an ordinary firearm, unless it hits the heart and the head, it can be restored as long as it drinks blood. However, after the deathwalker was shot, a faint purple light appeared on his body, which quickly dried up and burned to death after a while. Selena couldn't help being shocked. This kind of situation had never happened before. This weapon was obviously aimed at vampires, so she couldn't help being cautious. Selena is really right. The bullet that kills the deathwalker is the latest ultraviolet bullet that the werewolf deploys. It is specially used to hunt vampires. The effect is obviously very good. Seeing her companion's body burn to death, Selena naturally became more careful and did not dare to appear. Su Moching glanced at Michael who was hiding next to him, and then took out a handful of superalloy tiger claw flying darts from the psychic space, instantly threw it, and shot it at a closer werewolf. With a sound of pissed, flying darts of tiger claws swept across the werewolf's neck, directly cutting off his entire head, and blood spewed out immediately. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the werewolves and rewarding 76 psychic points. Thompson. Seeing this scene, the werewolf Rise suddenly roared, raised the submachine gun in his hand, and pulled the trigger at Su Moching. With a dozen rounds of purple bullets, Roar whistled and shot towards Su Moching. Su Moching was on a whim, ready to show him off. I saw Su Moching quickly took out 2 super alloy long knives from the psychic space, and his eyes were keenly watching the flying bullets. Super dynamic vision, combined with strong physical fitness and reaction nerves, the trajectory of those flying bullets is very clear in Su Moching's eyes. The 2 knives in his hands are quickly swung, slashing, picking, and plucking, bringing up a phantom, accompanied by with the ding and jingle bells of gold, iron and sparks. All the bullets that flew from were chopped in half. Fact squid. Rise's bullet was empty, and looking at Su Moching who was unscathed, his 2 big eyes almost stared out, looking like hell. Holding a double knife to split the bullet, this Tamar is unscientific. Without waiting for Rise to transform, Su Moching quickly stepped forward, took the knife and dropped it, almost a roar sucked, and cut off Rise's bald head. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the werewolves and rewarding 198 psychic points. The 2 werewolves died one after another, but the matter was not over. The other vampire who came with Selena suddenly shot Su Moching without knowing what the wind was. Bang! The silver bullet flew out from the pistol. Su Moching's eyes, the bullet's trajectory was clear and slow, raised his hand, split the bullet in half, and then threw it out, directly nailing the shot of the vampire's head. Boom! The long knife pierced the vampire's eyebrows, and splashed blood from the back of his head. The strong inertia directly nailed the vampire to the stone pillar. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the vampire and reward 96 psychic points. Everything happened in a blink of an eye. Su Moching didn't know what the vampire's brain was crazy, but he didn't have much good feelings about vampires, werewolves and the like, especially males. If you dare to shoot at him, then cut him without discussing it. When Selena reacted, the vampire was already dead. Who are you? Selena pointed the gun at Su Moching, nervously guarded. The opponent's movements were too fast, she was not sure that she could hit the opponent. Su Moching smiled and said, Selena, relax. We are not enemies. On the contrary, I came here by your call. My call. Selena was a little confused, but in the midst of it, she did feel that she had some inexplicable connection with the Washa people in front of her. But Selena did not relax, and said coldly, how do you know my name? I hate people pointing a gun at me. Can you put the gun down and talk? Su Moching smiled slightly, looking very friendly. If it weren't for seeing a few corpses next to it. Selena thought about the skill that Su Moching had shown just now, knowing that she was definitely not the opponent of the other party, and the pistol in her hand could not bring her a sense of security, so she thought about it for a moment and put the gun away. Su Moching smiled, took the long knife and tiger claw flying darts back, glanced at Michael without a trace, and then said to Selena, I not only know your name, but also your past, and many things, but here it's not a place to chat, how about talking in another place? Selena took a deep look at Su Moching, wait first. With that said, Selena picked up the gun that Su Moching killed the werewolf with tiger claw flying darts before. This new weapon against vampires needs to be taken back and studied. After putting away the ultraviolet bullets, Selena said to Su Moching, come with me. For some reason, although it was the first time to meet Su Moching, Selena felt that the other party was worthy of trust. The two quickly walked out of the subway station and got into a black car. Selena's operation made the car roar like an angry bull and left. About a few minutes later, the police car arrived, but as soon as the police blocked the scene, a group of people from special departments arrived in full gear. After taking out their credentials, they took over the follow-up work and skillfully packed the corpses of vampires and werewolves into the helicopter. Selena is a vampire who has lived for 6 centuries because she is the adopted daughter of Victor, one of the 3 elders of Blood Clan. In Blood Clan, Selena also has a high position. The elegant and beautiful appearance, as well as the aloof and noble temperament, made Selena known by Blood Clan as the goddess of the moon. At the moment Selena was driving a car, fast walking through the street, Su Moching sat in the passenger seat, looking at the scenery outside the window. The two talked a few words. The car gradually drove out of the city, getting more and more remote, and finally stopped in front of the old villa on the outskirts. This is Selena's safe house. Only a few Blood Clan knew about it. After leading Su Moching into the basement, Selena walked to a safe, entered the secret, and took out 2 handguns filled with bullets into her waist. The holster, then turned around and took out a bag of blood from the fresh-keeping box next to it, and drank it by himself. Su Moching sat on the sofa familiarly and turned on the TV with the remote control. The news of the subway shootout is being broadcast on TV. However, according to the reporter's explanation, the gun battle was a gang rage, and there were no reports of vampires and werewolves. Obviously Alexander Cuvinis used his own power to erase the traces of vampires and werewolves and protect these unscrupulous descendants. Selena finished drinking a bag of blood packs and felt a lot more energetic. Looking at Su Moching on the sofa, her bright red lips slightly opened. Let's talk, what the hell is going on, why are the werewolves following you? Selena did not notice Michael at the time, and thought that the person Rise was following was the Chinese man in front of her. Su Moching smiled and said, first, introduce myself. My name is Su Moching, a Chinese native. Secondly, those werewolves are not following me, but a man named Michael. Michael, why did those werewolves come to him? Is there anything special about him? Selena asked. Su Moching sorted out the language and said slowly, Alexander Michael, a direct descendant of Alexander Cuvinis, has hidden perfect blood in his body. Perfect blood? Selena asked in confusion. Su Moching nodded. Perfect blood is a very special kind of blood that can neutralize different genes. The Wolf King Lucian wants to get Michael's blood, and then get the blood of a vampire, so that he can become a half-werewolf, half-vampire monster. Quote. Wait, you say Lucian? It's impossible, Lucian is already dead. Selena felt that the more they talked, the more ridiculous. If it wasn't for Su Moching's ability to be weak, and gave her a special sense of intimacy, Selena planned to suck up this guy for dinner. As far as she knows, more than 600 years ago, the werewolf was a slave of Blood Clan, but for some reason, the werewolf launched a rebellion. Blood Clan caught off guard and suffered heavy casualties. Even his adoptive father Victor almost died during that rebellion. A few years later, Blood Clan, who made a comeback, launched a bloody revenge on the werewolves. Even the most terrifying and cruel leader of the werewolves, Lucian, was killed by Craven, and a piece of wolf skin was set aside as a testimony. Su Moching saw Selena's unbelief and smiled. There is nothing impossible. Lucian is indeed still alive, and has been accumulating strength to fight back. Cleven is his partner, otherwise it will rely on Cleven's ability. Let alone wolf skin, he can't pluck a wolf hair. Selena felt a little shaken when she heard this. Since Victor fell asleep, Craven has been the decision-maker of the Blood Clan European headquarters. However, Selena is still aware of Craven's ability. When it comes to fighting, Selena is sure to kill the opponent within a few strokes. Craven's ability to kill Lucian really surprised many Blood Clan. And Craven's statement that he killed Lucian was only a one-sided statement. Besides that, only a piece of wolf skin was used to testify, and no one saw Lucian's body. In this case, if what you say is true, then once Lucian succeeds, the entire Blood Clan will be in danger. I need to go back to wake up the Elder and let him stop Cleven's conspiracy. Selena is a very assertive person. After listening to Su Moching's remarks, combined with what she knows, she has made a decision in her heart. At the moment Selena still doesn't know what kind of person Victor is, but Su Moching, who has watched the Underworld series, is very clear. She shook her head and said, "If I were you, I wouldn't do this. What you are saying, you have to stay calm." Selena was faintly disturbed when she heard the words, but she nodded and said, "Let's talk about it. Your parents were not actually killed by werewolves. They were actually killed by Victor." Su Moching told the truth about the death of Selena's parents. Although Selena was mentally prepared, she was still agitated when she heard Su Moching's words, and she shouted, "You lied." Since the death of her parents, Selena feels that the whole world is gloomy. When she was most desperate and helpless, Victor appeared and said that the werewolf killed her parents. If they want to avenge their parents, they need to be transformed into Blood Clan. At that time, Selena, who was heartbroken, resentful and helpless, chose revenge, and Victor was converted into a vampire. From then on, she started hunting and killing werewolves frantically. For Victor, who has the grace to rebuild, Selena treats him like a biological father and respects her. Now I heard Su Moching say that Victor was the culprit who killed her parents. How can Selena believe it, and she doesn't want to believe it? Whether you believe it or not, it's the fact that this is the case. Craven also knows about this. If you don't believe me, you can ask him. Su Moching said loudly. Selena shook her head and said, "It is very simple to prove that what you said is true or false, as long as you give me your blood." Vampires in this world do not know magic, but they have some special abilities, one of which is blood recollection, which can learn the memories of others by consuming the blood of the other party. Su Moching definitely won't let Selena suck his blood. Let's not say that his physique is different from ordinary people. Will Selena have any adverse reactions after inhaling? Only his many secrets cannot be easily exposed. I'm afraid not. Su Moching hadn't finished what he said. A rocket flew into the old villa where they were dragging a cigarette tail. Then the whole villa exploded violently, the fire blazed into the sky, the rubble was flying, and the sky-shattering noise spread all over the country. The basement where Su Moching and Selena were located was affected, and the aftermath of the explosion violently blasted the floor, causing gravel and flames to charge down. Su Moching's body still resisted knowing, but he felt a little pain and was not fatally injured. But Selena did not have the strong physique of Su Moching. She was hit by a shattered stone slab. The bones on her body broke countless on the spot, blood flowed, and then the flames swept through, engulfing Selena. Boom! There was another shocking explosion, and Su Moching was also buried in the ruins. Wow! Su Moching pushed away the stone planks pressed on her body and got up from the ruins. Ahem! The villa had collapsed, surrounded by burning flames and choking smoke. Through the light of the fire, Su Moching, who was slightly embarrassed, saw two off-road vehicles parked not far away. There were a dozen heavily armed men standing beside the car, and one of them was carrying a single soldier rocket launcher. The explosion just now was obviously caused by these men. Su Moqing was frightened, but realized that Selena had already lost her life. She immediately suppressed her anger and used the ability of time reset. Su Moqing returned to 3 minutes ago when the picture in front of him changed. The villa and basement were intact, and Selena stood in front of him, looking confused, and said, "Wait, you said Lucian. This is impossible, Lucian is already dead." The scene before him is exactly the scene 3 minutes ago, that is to say, if Su Moqing does not make a change, then 3 minutes later, Selena will be blown to death here. Thinking of the future scenario, Su Moqing said, "This question will be discussed later, you have been discovered here." Selena glanced at Su Moqing suspiciously. Although she was a little skeptical, her good combat literacy still made Selena alert. For this kind of thing, I would rather believe it if it exists than if it is untrustworthy, and hovering on the death line all the year round, Selena is naturally cautious. Su Moqing took out a plasma hand cannon from the psychic space and walked out of the basement in a stride. Selena took out 2 special pistols made by Deathwalker, followed closely behind. The two had just opened the door of the villa and walked outside the courtyard, and saw 2 off-road vehicles coming one after another from the forest path. I was caught off guard by the opponent before. If it weren't for the super-strong monster physique, Su Moqing wouldn't be able to survive. Now that the enemy meets, Su Moqing is definitely not polite, raising his hand to the cross-country ahead as an energy cannon. Wow! The energy cannon bombarded the off-road vehicle and exploded, blasting the entire off-road vehicle into scrap iron. Naturally, all the people inside were dogged. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the werewolves and rewarding 68 psychic points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the werewolves and rewarding 73 psychic points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the werewolves and reward 69 psychic points. 5 consecutive system prompts sounded. Selena glanced at the plasma hand cannon in Su Moqing's hand. She had never seen such a powerful weapon before. Seeing its power, she could catch up with cannonballs. Who is he? Why do you know so many secret things? Why have such advanced weapons? A series of questions popped up in her heart, but Selena was not idle in her hands. She raised her gun-holding hands and aimed at the trailing car behind her. After feeling the breath of a werewolf, she pulled the trigger without hesitation. Boom boom. More than a dozen gunshots echoed in the open suburbs, and bullets shot at the werewolf on the off-road. Fact squid. Everything happened too fast, from Su Moqing braking the first cross-country vehicle to Selena shooting, no more than 2 seconds apart. The werewolf who drove obviously had also undergone special training, and his reaction was not slow. As early as the moment the cross-country exploded in front of him, he instinctively turned the steering wheel, turned the body, and parked diagonally on the side of the road. The doors and windows of the off-road vehicle were smashed and shattered by bullets, and sparks and broken glass splashed everywhere. A werewolf on the left side of the car was shot by Selena on the spot, and 2 others were injured. Although the strength, speed, and resilience of these werewolves are much higher than those of ordinary people, they are not indestructible monsters after all, especially when they are not transformed. Their defensive power is not very strong. Deathwalker, get out of the car. With a loud shout, the 4 surviving werewolves swiftly opened the right door and ran out. Su Moqing raised his hand, and another energy cannon hit the off-road vehicle. Boom! The off-road vehicle burst into flames and blew up. The remaining 4 werewolves hid quickly, but did not suffer much damage. 2 of the werewolves tore their clothes and began to transform. I saw their bodies swell rapidly, their skin became dark and thick, their bodies grew thick gray-black wolf hair, their skulls became canine shapes, their sharp teeth were staggered, a wolf tail stretched out behind them, and their hands and feet became thick. The nails have also become sharp, and his eyes are full of brutal animality. Wow, wow, da da da. The 2 untransformed werewolves shot back, and the 2 transformed werewolves howled a wolf, don't rush towards Su Moqing and Selena from the side. Wow! The wolf roared and quickly approached, with a bloodthirsty light in his eyes. After the plasma hand cannon was used, it needed a period of buffering. Su Moqing put it away and ran to avoid a few bullets. At the same time, he took out a flying darts of tiger claws and threw it at the running werewolf. Hanman suddenly got up, the werewolf couldn't dodge, and was shot on the wolf's head by flying darts with tiger claws. Copper-headed iron-tailed tofu waste. Werewolf's head is very hard. Ordinary guns are also difficult to smash the werewolf's skull, but Su Moqing's power is so great, and the tiger claw flying blade is extremely powerful, just like cutting tofu, with a piece of blood flows through it easily. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the werewolves and rewarding 82 psychic points. Blood mixed with his brain and shot out, and the werewolf's body rolled twice on the ground, completely dead. And when Su Moqing shot the werewolf, another werewolf had climbed less than 2 meters in front of Selena and jumped straight over. Selena wanted to dodge the flying bullet, but she couldn't keep up with her reaction. Su Moqing saw this and raised her hand to the werewolf who was throwing up. Gravity field. Triple. 5 meters apart, a mass of invisible gravity suddenly pressed down. Before the werewolf figured out what was going on, he felt that his body had become extremely heavy, falling from midair and hitting the ground heavily. Bang! 3 times the gravity, plus the original weight of the werewolf, smashed some cracks on the ground steps, and the werewolf's internal organs suddenly collapsed because they could not withstand the sudden increase in gravity. Su Moqing took the opportunity to take out the folding spear, threw it out, and pierced his body with one blow. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the werewolves and rewarding 76 psychic points. Su Moqing avoided a few bullets sideways, and the remaining 2 werewolves emptied their magazines. Seeing that the situation was not good, they transformed at the same time, turned around and ran into the forest behind him. To deal with a group of werewolves, there is definitely no need to use Godzilla or King Kong. Su Moqing's goal is to get perfect blood, not against the whole world. There is no need to make such a big move. Selena was about to chase after her, but was stopped by Su Moqing. Let them run, they just lack a lead. Su Moqing's tone was a little gloomy. Originally, he just wanted to complete the task and left when he got perfect blood, but now, he has changed his mind. With a thought, Su Moqing psyched up the predator. Selena only felt a flower in front of her, and suddenly there were 12 burly and sturdy people in front of her, wearing weird armor masks. Feeling the breath of the predator, Selena was horrified. Although she did not fight, she could feel that each of these people was not weaker than her. Your target this time is the werewolf. The 2 werewolves in the forest will take you to the werewolf's lair. No matter what method you use, my request is only one. Find these awful and kill them. Su Moqing gave an order, and the 12 predators patted their chests together, and then entered the stealth mode, quickly rushed into the forest, and began to track the werewolf. These predators have been injected with super soldier serum, they are well equipped and belong to elite Iron Blood, and they have signed a contract with Su Moqing. There will be no problems, there are hundreds of predators who signed the contract. Because of the large number, they are not recorded on the attribute list. Selena was shocked again when she saw the predators invisible. These predators, who looked like humans but not humans, beasts and not beasts, felt very dangerous to her. They carried a lot of equipment that she couldn't understand, and they were still invisible. If this is the enemy, how should we deal with it? Selena couldn't help feeling silent for the werewolf. It seemed that the werewolf was in a big trouble. The thought flashed by. Selena looked at Su Moqing curiously. How many secrets was hidden in the man in front of him? I really want to suck his blood. Su Moqing looked at Selena with straight eyes, licked her lips unconsciously, and thought with narcissism, there is no way for a handsome person. Beautiful women can't help being hungry and thirsty. Quote. Selena is indeed a bit hungry, but her hunger is fundamentally different from the hunger that Su Moqing understands. The 2 are not on the same channel at all. For Selena, Su Moqing's blood is very attractive. Selena has a faint feeling that if she sucks Su Moqing's blood, she will undergo earth-shaking changes. Su Moqing didn't know what Selena was thinking, and looked at the burning off-road vehicle. What did we talk about just now? Selena suppressed her bloodthirsty instinct and said, Lucian. Well, it seems I have to tell you again. Su Moqing shrugged. Selena wondered. Why do you say again? This is not important. Let's talk about Lucian and Victor. Su Moqing repeated the grievances between Lucian, Craven, Victor and others, and at the same time told Selena that her family's death was all given by Victor. When the topic returned to the original point, Selena still didn't want to believe it. Su Moqing said, Victor's problem can be discussed later. Let's go to Michael now. Maybe we can meet Lucian and solve your doubts. Selena thought for a while, Michael. He should have been at the subway station, why didn't you bring him on? I'm not familiar with him, what do you bring him a light bulb for? Su Moching said definitely. Su Moching doesn't care about Michael's life or death. If he didn't directly catch Michael to draw blood, he was already worthy of him. About half an hour later, Selena drove down to the apartment where Michael lived. In fact, Su Moching could fly directly if he wanted to, but Michael was not a beautiful woman. He had no motivation to save a big man. After saying the address, he lay in the car lazily. When the elevator opened on the 6th floor, Su Moching and Selena in the elevator saw 4 or 5 big men carrying unconscious men in front of them. The werewolf and the vampire are enemies, and they immediately surrendered their identities. And Su Moching looked at the unconscious man, isn't it Michael? It should be said that it was coming at the right time, or is it a bad luck? The atmosphere freezes instantly. After the two sides looked at each other for 0.1 seconds, they simultaneously took out their guns and prepared to shoot. Su Moching reacted faster, and immediately used a gravity field and the gravity of invisible pressed on several werewolves and Michael, and crushed them to the ground. Selena didn't know how Su Moching did it, but she didn't miss the opportunity. She immediately fired a series of shots and shot at close range. Selena's marksmanship could have been done wherever she was. However, because of Su Moching's gravitational field interference, the trajectory of these bullets deviated. Originally, Selena planned to shoot a few werewolves and catch Michael for questioning, but because of the deviation of the bullets, 2 of them hit Michael on the head. Then Michael was a tragedy. Michael's unexpected tragedy, even Su Moching felt very surprised. Selena was also taken aback. She didn't expect that she would accidentally kill Michael. She felt a little guilty in her heart, but that was all. Selena is not a bloodthirsty person. Under normal circumstances, she will not deliberately harm ordinary people, but after all, she is a vampire who has lived for hundreds of years and has seen too many life and death clutches. Killing a stranger by mistake is not something particularly worthy of her concern. Only for a moment, Selena fired at several werewolves again, killing all the werewolves suppressed by Su Moching's gravity field. Then he looked at Michael's body and frowned. Su Moching took out a set of blood collectors and drew out Michael's blood while it was hot. This blood collector was originally prepared by Su Moching for Cuvinus. After all, Cuvinus's perfect blood was the purest and the most effective. Michael is just a candidate, but since Michael is dead, it can't be wasted. Saving is a traditional virtue. As it was used as waste, Su Moching was directly drained by Michael, collected 7 bags of blood, and burned the bodies of him and the werewolf on the spot with a hellfire. No, Lucian, who heard the gunshots catching up, just saw Michael and a few werewolves being burned by Su Moching, and roared in his mouth. Lucian was trembling with anger and his eyes were bloodshot. Then he noticed the blood bag collected by Su Moching. His eyes flashed, and a half-meter-long blade suddenly popped out of the sleeve of his right hand, charging Su Moching like a cheetah. Come over. At the same time Lucian made this move, Selena held the gun in both hands and fired continuously, emptying all the remaining bullets of the special pistol. Lucian's skill was good, dodged most of the bullets, only a few bullets hit him. Lucian's figure paused slightly, his teeth hissed, and the bruises on his face burst out. The bullets that shot into the cortex and were jammed by muscles, but the 2 roar-sucking rooms were pushed out of the body, and the gunshot wounds on his body healed in a blink of an eye. Gravity field. 4 times. Su Moching raised his hand and pressed down in the air. 4 times the force of gravity acted on Lucian, pressing him directly onto the ground. Lucian fell on all fours, resisting the heavy pressure, roared, his body changed drastically, gray wolf hair grew rapidly, his body shape doubled, his clothes and trousers broke instantly, and in a blink of an eye, he became a head more than 4 meters long. Giant wolf. The corridor where 4 people can run side by side seems a bit crowded to the giant wolf. Selena can vaguely see the wolf skin on his body with a gap as big as a palm. Roar. With a howl of a wolf, the wolf like Lucian, whose physical strength was nearly twice as strong, carried the gravity field forward. It can be carried, the gravity field, 10 times. Su Moching strengthens the gravity field and 10 times more gravity acts on the giant wolf. The body of the giant wolf hit the ground, and the floor instantly broke and collapsed. Rumble. With several noises in succession, the giant wolf smashed directly from the 6th floor to the underground parking lot under the gravity, and fell from the stop. Ah! The giant wolf's mouth spewed out a large mouth of blood mixed with internal organs, his stomach was almost collapsed, his body was shrunk and bloody, he had obviously suffered fatal injuries, and his body was slowly shrinking into a human form. Lucian turned back into a human form, trembling to remove the rocks from his body, but before Lucian got up, a spear flew down, pierced his body, nailed it to the ground, and completely wiped out Lucian's vitality. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the Wolf King Lucian and rewarding 480 psychic points. When the system prompt sounded, Su Moqing and Selena cleaned up, and then jumped off the fault. After landing, Selena came to Lucian's body, saw the necklace on Lucian's neck, and tore it off. Selena once read this necklace in Blood Clan's ancient book. Victor gave it to his daughter, but was snatched by Lucian during the werewolf rebellion that year. Thinking of this, Selena couldn't help frowning. He is really Lucian, so Lois has been cheating on Blood Clan. Yes. Su Moqing nodded. Selena's face kept changing. After a while, she asked in a flustered manner, Victor is really the murderer who killed my family. Originally, Victor asked your father to build a dungeon to imprison William, the first owner of the werewolf. Afterwards, in order to prevent any leaks, he killed all the people who participated in the construction of dungeon. The reason why he didn't kill you was because you were so special. Like his daughter. Hearing Su Moqing's words, Selena had already believed by 7 points, and then couldn't help but ask, these are old events hundreds of years ago. Even a veteran-level vampire may not know it. Why are you so clear? Quote, I know you don't care, anyway, it won't hurt you, just drink this first. Su Moqing said, took out a blood bag drawn from Michael and handed it to Selena. Selena had heard Su Moqing say that Michael had perfect blood before, and he took the blood bag dubiously and then drank it. Michael's perfect blood is not as pure as Alexander Kavinis, but it also has some effects. For vampires, it has a great effect. The most important thing is that it can make vampires live in the sun. Down. After Selena drank the blood bag, she keenly felt that her body was undergoing a certain change. The cells in her body seemed to be baptized. The lifeless heart began to beat faster, and the blood in the blood vessels flowed quickly, an indescribable overstepping. Dare to spread all over the body, as if every cell is jumping for joy. The original sky blue eyes have turned dark blue at this moment. While Selena was drinking blood, Su Moqing incinerated Lucian's body, retracted the folding spear, and then looked at Selena of metamorphosis and asked, how do you feel? Very good. Selena touched the position of her atrium and sighed. I almost forgot this feeling of rapid heartbeat. The heartbeat is speeding up, that's because there is a handsome man in Yushu standing next to you. Su Moqing joked. Selena stretched out her red tongue, licked her blood-stained red lips, half joking, and half seriously said, you're handsome and can't be a meal. I'm really interested in your blood. Su Moqing's mouth twitched slightly when he heard this. I think you are Bilawachan, and you think I am Shijilang. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the werewolves and rewarding 36 psychic points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the werewolves and rewarding 43 psychic points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the werewolves and rewarding 51 psychic points. Su Moqing was stunned, and the system reminders sounded in his mind one after another. It was obviously the predator he had sent out before, and he had already started hunting. In the middle of the night, in the town of St. Andrews, north of Budapest, in a heavily guarded villa, the lights are brightly lit, and many handsome men and women of European descent in luxurious dresses gather together. This is the headquarters of Blood Clan in Europe, where many high-level vampires gather and live a life of day and night. As Victor's adopted daughter, Selena was originally strong, and she was quite prestigious in Blood Clan. As a pragmatist, Selena decided to find Clevin to confirm the truth after learning the truth from Su Moqing. The black car came to the front door. After the two vampires at the door verified Selena's identity, they opened two heavy electronic iron doors. Selena drove in with a blank face. After parking the car, she took Su Moqing to the gate of the old castle. Crunchy. Selena opened the door with a gloomy expression, and walked into the hall with Su Moqing, who was calm and calm. Su Moqing looked around and saw a large group of gorgeously dressed vampires gathering in the hall, chatting and laughing, living a life of drunkenness. The long lifespan has allowed vampires to accumulate a lot of wealth. But vampires can only feed on blood and fear the sun. They inevitably lose a lot of fun in life. They can only have fun in the dark and kill a long time. From the outside, the vampires here are all handsome men and beautiful women. Even if you don't want to find an ugly one, it is not easy. It can be seen from this that vampires are the standard face control, and only those who are handsome in appearance will be favored by them and develop into the descendants of vampires. Su Moching and Selena walked into the hall, and the surrounding vampires suddenly noticed them. Selena, the goddess of the month, all these vampires knew, but Su Moching was obviously a humankind, which made them take another look. Feeling the vigor and vitality in Su Moching's body, these seemingly elegant vampires all faintly agitated. In their eyes, Su Moching is a rare blood food. Many vampires seem to be jealous, but because of the existence of Selena, they are more restrained. At this moment, Craven took a few of his men and walked down the stairs, looking at Selena next to Su Moching with stern eyes, and said displeased, "How can you bring an outsider here? He is as your snack." In the eyes of most vampires, human beings are food. Sometimes vampires will trick some humans into coming to the castle, having a bloody feast, and discovering bloodthirsty animality. But Selena has never participated in this kind of activity, and has never brought people to the castle. Moreover, the Chinese man in front of him is more stylish than him, and the relationship with Selena seems to be extraordinary. This makes Craven, who has always regarded Selena as a forbidden, very unhappy. Su Moching didn't care about this. He didn't need to care about a group of dying people. Selena glanced at Su Moching, then looked directly at Craven. "We need to talk." "Yes, come to my room." Craven cast a proud glance at Su Moching, as if he was warning, then turned and walked up to the second floor. Selena followed, leaving Su Moching alone, standing among a bunch of vampires. Without Selena's pressure, the surrounding vampires were all about to move, and their eyes glowed with scorching bloodthirsty, like a hungry person, looking at a table full of people. They couldn't help but move their index fingers, wanting a bite. "Handsome guy, come here for the first time. Are you interested in sitting in my room?" An enchanting, beautiful blonde female vampire with a smile on her face initiated an invitation to Su Moching. This vampire was called Erica, and belonged to the younger generation of vampires, because he hooked up with the ruler of Cleven, and with Cleven's power, he was a fox and a tiger. Among the vampires, he was considered to have a relatively high position. Although the surrounding vampires were jealous of Erica eating alone, but due to Craven's face, they did not dare to offend Erica easily. Su Moching looked at the glamorous Erica, smiled and said, "It's better to be respectful than fate." After hearing this, Erica smiled triumphantly, and eagerly pulled Su Moching into her room. As soon as she entered the room, Erica closed the door and entangled Su Moching like an octopus. Su Moching stepped back 2 steps, avoiding Erica's hug. Although Erica is also a beautiful woman, Su Moching is not hungry enough to choose food. He doesn't like picking up people in broken shoes. The reason why he came here is just to be quiet. "What's wrong? Am I not beautiful?" Seeing Su Moching avoiding, Erica was a little annoyed. Su Moching smiled and said, "Sorry, I'm not interested in glamorous fools." Erica was taken aback. "You and my old mother entered the house, now tell me this." Recovered, Erica, who was ashamed and angry, became angry, ready to go hard, kicked her feet, and flew towards Su Moching. At the same time as he threw it out, the fangs in Erica's mouth were exposed, biting Su Moching's neck, intending to suck Su Moching dry. With a thought, Su Moching summoned the unicorn in front of her. Erica only felt a flower in front of her, and then under inertia, she ran into the unicorn's unicorn. Shit! The sharp unicorn with light attributes instantly penetrated Erica's heart, and the power of holy light exploded, turning Erica's body into ashes in the blink of an eye. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the vampire Ellie and rewarding 38 psychic points. The world is quiet. After solving Erica, Su Moching sat on the sofa in the room, opened a bottle of red wine and drank it. Bang bang bang. After a while, Su Moching heard a gunshot, and then got up and pushed open the door, and walked out with the unicorn. Wow! I saw Craven smashing the glass of the window and falling into the hall. There was an obvious stab wound on his wrist, and the blood flow continued. The sudden change caused the surrounding vampires to be shocked, and then, Selena jumped out of the broken window. Earlier, Selena had drunk some of Craven's blood, and obtained part of Craven's memory through blood recollection, which confirmed that Su Moching's words were true. Selena chased after Craven and panicked. Selena colluded with humans and betrayed Blood Clan, so I will kill her soon. Craven likes Selena, but he cares more about his own life. Selena drank his blood and must have known that there was a deal between him and Lucian. If he didn't act first, he would die. Place. The vampires around hadn't figured out what was going on, so Craven's confidant rushed over and shot Selena and Su Moching. Selena and Su Moching knew that Craven was the real traitor among the vampires, and now it was only the wicked who sued first, but even if they said what they said, it is estimated that no vampire would believe it. And after Selena confirmed that Victor had killed her family, she had made up her mind to break with the vampire, so she didn't bother to go further. As a ruthless master, Selena has always advocated, can kill, never talk nonsense, shoot directly and kill the quartet. Boom boom boom. The two sides exchanged fire, and the hall suddenly turned into a battlefield. The vampires who were waiting in the hall fled in panic. The gunfire sounded, and the battle in the hall of the vampire castle was in full swing. Selena took the initiative to attack and shot the vampire warriors who came. At the same time, outside the vampire castle, 8 invisible predators began hunting vampires. Before the predator went to destroy the werewolves, although they succeeded in destroying a werewolf lair and beheaded hundreds of werewolves, they also lost 4 people. For a time, 2 battlefields formed inside and outside the vampire castle. The predators in the invisible state are fascinating. Their armor can resist most of the gun attacks. Coupled with the leading weapons and equipment, although the number of soldiers is not as large as the vampire warriors, they have the upper hand. But in 2 or 3 minutes, more than 20 vampire warriors who had experienced many battles were killed by the predators. In the vampire castle, Su Moching saw that Selena's single tree was difficult to support, and let the unicorn use a large-scale light magic holy light. Sacred light is a large-scale light magic. For ordinary people, it does not have much attack power. But for dark creatures like vampires that die by sight of the light, it is extremely lethal. The unicorn on top of the unicorn's head suddenly burst out with a soft holy light, illuminating the entire hall brightly. Because Selena drank perfect blood, she was not afraid of the sun, but felt that the light was a little dazzling. But other vampires did not resist ability at all. They were in the light of the holy light, as if they were in a stove, and felt extremely stinging. Under the baptism of the light, they screamed and quickly turned to ashes. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the vampire Paul, and rewarding 103 psychic points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the vampire Kessel and rewarding 134 psychic points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the vampire Angelina and rewarding 96 psychic points. A series of system prompts sounded, and in a blink of an eye, more than 10,000 psychic points were credited to Su Moching. There is a way to bite tofu with bittern, one thing falls one thing. The light magic of unicorns is simply the nightmare of vampires. From the beginning, this was not a reciprocal battle. Selena also has lingering fears. If she hadn't drunk perfect blood, I'm afraid that at the moment would have been wiped out like those vampires. Only a few vampires escaped by relying on obstacles to resist the light. When looking at Shenzhen's unicorn again, these vampires are avoiding like snakes and scorpions, desperately escaping to a place that they think is safe. Craven is a life-saving person. From the beginning of the battle, he found a corner to hide. After seeing the destructive power of the unicorn, he had no intention of fighting at all, and ran wildly to the entrance of the nearest metropolitan hall. Claire was not slow, and the 3 roars sucked in and fled to the door of the hall. His life was ahead, and Craven's face showed a surviving smile, but the next moment, his smile gradually stiffened. Chi. At the moment the door was opened, 3 sharp and transparent spears penetrated Cleven's body and held it in midair, and bright red blood flowed down the spears. Ah! Cough cough. Craven screamed and coughed up blood, feeling very uncomfortable and terrified in his heart. The 3 predators emerged from their invisibility and drew their spears at the same time. One of the predators kicked Craven's fallen body and kicked him back into the hall. Don't kill me, Selena, you know. I love you. Craven looked at Selena imploringly, hoping that Selena could look at her past affection and let him go. I don't remember at all that I wanted to kill someone just now. Sorry, I never liked you. Selena looked cold and shot Craven directly, ending Craven's life. Su Moching asked the predators to continue to kill the vampires, and he took the unicorn and Selena to the sleeping chamber of the vampire elder. Perhaps Su Moching and Selena made too much noise, and the vampire guarding the secret room had already carried out an emergency wake-up ceremony. Boom boom. When Su Moching and Selena and the unicorn smashed a bloody road and came to the secret room, they opened the door and they were greeted by the frenzied blasts of several death walkers. The unicorn uses light shield to form a protective barrier to resist the bullets. Su Moching raised his hand, several hellfires turned into fiery snakes and sprang out, directly burning the death walkers to death. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the vampire Lois, rewarding 154 psychic points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the vampire Jackson, rewarding 147 psychic points. The other side. In a blood pool several meters wide, two old men stood up from the blood water. The skin that was originally dry and resembling tree bark regained its vitality at a speed visible to the naked eye. These two are the oldest vampires, Victor and Marcus, the ancestor of the vampire. The two walked into the bleeding pool, quickly put on their neat clothes, and then took their respective sabers and walked out of the secret room. As an antique that survived the Middle Ages, Marcus was sleeping 2 centuries ago. Victor also slept for nearly a century. Their consciousness still stayed 100 or 200 years ago, and they were not accustomed to using modern firearms. Wow! The door of the inner room opened, and Su Moching watched two old ghosts in saucy coats walk out of it, and said to Selena beside him, "Victor will hand it to you, I will deal with Marcus." Selena nodded, her expression cold. Victor looked at Selena angrily and yelled, "Selena, my child, why are you betraying me? I'm not your child, Victor, you told me that the werewolves killed my family, but these are lies. It was you. You killed my mother, father, and my sister." Selena looked at Victor, her eyes were no longer respectful, but hatred. When Victor heard this, his face became more gloomy, his eyes were bloodshot, the vampire's fangs were sticking out of his mouth, and he looked at Su Moching viciously. "Did he tell you?" Seeing that Selena did not deny, Victor definitely said, "You have disappointed me too much. I love you so much. Yes, I took the life of your family, but I have given you more. It provides you with a superior life, gives you eternal life, and treats you as yourself. Isn't that enough?" Selena's face grew colder when she heard the words, "Victor, you killed my family. The reason you left me is just because I am similar to your daughter. Do you still want me to thank you for your generosity? I'm deceiving me. Let me vent my hatred on the werewolf, and become your tool to deal with the werewolf. You have never loved anyone, you only love yourself. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.